In today's video, I'm going to try to save you several $1,000s, because before you buy a privacy fence, there are 8 things you should try first, and I want to show you why I believe that. 3 years ago, I got a quote for a privacy fence around my backyard. I won't say the exact number, but it was cancel the vacation money, and I almost paid it, because my yard felt like a fishbowl, neighbors on both sides, a 2-story house behind us looking straight down into the patio, and that feeling where you step outside with your coffee and immediately feel watched. If you know that feeling, this video is for you. But here's what I figured out before signing that quote, mostly by accident. I didn't actually need to wall off my entire property. I needed privacy in about 3 specific spots: where we sit, where we eat, and the back corner with the hot tub. And screening 3 spots costs a tiny fraction of fencing a whole yard. Today, my yard feels completely private. I never built the fence, and I spent maybe a fifth of that quote, spread over a couple of seasons, 1 weekend at a time. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 8 ideas I used and tested, what each one costs, how long it takes, where each one shines, and where each one honestly falls short. Because some of these are instant and some make you wait, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Now, here's how I want you to watch this, because this video works best if you play along. Before we start, I need you to diagnose your privacy problem. Because I need privacy actually means 3 different things, and the right fix depends on which one you've got. Type 1, side to side. Neighbors at your level, seeing across the yard. Type 2, top down. A taller house, a deck, or an upstairs window looking down into your space. And I'll tell you right now, a fence never solves this one, which is the single biggest reason people spend thousands and still feel watched. Type 3, street view. Passing cars and sidewalk traffic, seeing your front or side yard. So right now, figure out which one you are, or which combination, and drop it in the comments as we go. At the end, I'll ask for your type plus the idea you're trying first, and I read every single one of those comments. They decide what I film next. One principle before we start, and honestly, if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this: privacy is about where you sit, not where your property ends. A fence tries to privatize the whole yard, but you don't live in the whole yard. You live in 2 or 3 spots. Screen the spots, and the whole yard feels private. That one idea is the entire reason I saved thousands. And stay to the end, because after idea 8, I'll give you my finishing move. It costs almost nothing. It's not visual at all, and it did more for how private my patio feels than half the things on this list. All right, grab a coffee. Let's get you some privacy. Idea 1, the targeted privacy screen. Idea 1, the freestanding privacy screen panel. This is where I started, and it's where I'd tell almost everyone to start, because it's the fastest, cheapest way to test that principle I just gave you. Here's the diagnosis moment. Go sit in your main outdoor spot. Patio chair, dining table, wherever you actually sit. Now look around and find the sightline that bothers you most. Not all of them, the worst one. For me, it was my neighbor's kitchen window, dead level with our dinner table. Every meal, potential eye contact. Lovely people. Didn't want to see them chew either. Here's the move. One screen panel, placed close to you, not out at the property line. This is the counterintuitive part, so let me explain. Because it's geometry that works in your favor. A screen 6 feet from your chair blocks the same sight line as 40 feet of fence out at the boundary. The closer the screen is to you, the more it blocks. It's like holding your hand up in front of your face. Your hand isn't big, but it can block a whole building. Your options, in order of effort. A store-bought freestanding screen, metal or resin panels, $60 to $150, 0 build. A lattice panel on 2 posts. Or my favorite for the money, horizontal slat panels, which you can build from cedar fence boards in an afternoon, and which look genuinely custom. My mistake to save you from, my first screen was a cheap, light resin panel, and the first real storm sent it cartwheeling into the vegetable garden. If it's freestanding, it needs real feet, planted posts, heavy planter bases, or anchor stakes. Wind always wins against light and tall. Cost, $60 to $200. Time, 1 afternoon. Privacy, instant. And that word matters, because it's the last time I'll get to use it for a while. Now, that screen solved my side-to-side problem at the table, but the 2-story house behind us was still looking straight down at the patio, and no panel on earth is tall enough for that. That needs idea 2. Idea 2, the pergola with curtains. Or a canopy. Idea 2, overhead privacy. If you diagnosed yourself as type 2, top down, a taller house, a neighboring deck, upstairs windows. This is your section. And I need to repeat something. A privacy fence cannot fix this problem. You can build an 8-foot fence, and the second-story window still sees your patio perfectly. People spend thousands learning this. You now know it for free. The answer is a roof. Not a solid one, just something over your head. A pergola over the seating area, with either a canopy, a shade sail stretched across the top, or climbing plants filling it in over time. The moment there's something overhead, the top-down sightline dies, and honestly, the psychological effect is even bigger than the visual one. A ceiling makes an outdoor space feel like a room, and rooms feel private. Now, real talk on options and money, because this is the biggest ticket idea on the list. A basic kit pergola runs a few $100s in one weekend with 2 people. And I mean it about the 2 people. The moment you're holding a beam overhead while balancing on a ladder alone, you've made a mistake. Ask me how I know. A shade sail is the budget version, $50 to $100, anchored to the house and 2 posts one afternoon. And it kills the same sightline. It just says modern where a pergola says established. Then the upgrade that took mine from good to favorite place in the house. Outdoor curtains on the pergola sides. Wire cable or a rod, weather-resistant curtains, done in an hour. Open, it's airy. Pulled shut on 2 sides, our patio became a genuinely private outdoor room. Dinner out there feels like a restaurant courtyard now. My wife was skeptical about curtains outside. The curtains are now non-negotiable. That's all I'll say. One honest caveat, check wind. Sails and curtains are fine in normal weather, but if you're in a genuinely windy spot, get sails with a bit of stretch and take them down for storms. 5-minute job saves you chasing fabric down the street. Again, ask me how I know. Cost, $50 for a sail, up to $500 or $600 for a pergola with curtains. Time, an afternoon to a weekend. So that's the sitting area, handled from the side and from above. But what about longer stretches? A whole side of the yard where you genuinely want fence-like coverage. That's where we plant a fence instead of building one. Idea 3, the living fence, privacy hedges. Idea 3, the privacy hedge. A row of evergreen trees or shrubs that becomes a living wall. This is the classic fence alternative. It's the prettiest thing on this list. It can outlast any wood fence ever built. And I'm going to be more honest with you about it than most videos are, because there's a catch, and the catch is time. First, what to plant. You want evergreen. Privacy that quits in winter isn't privacy. And the usual suspects are arborvitae, like emerald green for tight spaces or green giant where there's room, and things like skip laurel or holly, depending on your region. Check what thrives locally. The garden center staff genuinely know. Now the honest math that the plant tag glosses over. Small starter plants are cheap, $25, $40 each, but you'll wait 3 to 5 years for real privacy. Larger installed trees give you privacy in one season, but big specimens can run a couple $100s each, and a long row of them starts approaching. Well, fence money. So here's how I'd actually decide. Hedges are the play for stretches where you want permanent, beautiful coverage and you can afford to wait. And you cover the waiting years by pairing them with Idea 1, a screen panel doing the job while the hedge grows. Screens are the sprint, hedges are the marathon. Run both. Planting is genuinely beginner-friendly. Dig, drop, backfill, water, but 3 mistakes kill most privacy hedges, and I made 1.5 of them. Mistake 1, planting too close together because the little plants look lonely and gappy. Follow the spacing on the tag. They're spaced for their adult size, and crowded trees choke each other right when you need them most. Mistake 2, planting right on the property line. The mature tree is wide. Half of it becomes your neighbor's tree, legally and emotionally. Set the row back by half the mature width. Mistake 3, the one that got me, ignoring them after planting. New evergreens need deep watering their whole first year, including fall. I let a dry September slide and lost 2 trees out of my row, which is why my hedge has 2 slightly younger trees in it, like a family photo with a stepchild. Cost anywhere from a couple $100s for small starters to over $1,000 for instant size. Time to plant, 1 weekend. Time to privacy, 1 to 5 years, depending on your wallet. Now, hedges need ground, and decent ground at that. But what if your privacy problem is on a patio, a deck, or a rented place where you can't plant anything at all? Idea 4 is the whole answer, and it's the most flexible thing on this list. Idea 4, tall planters with grasses and screening plants. Idea 4, the mobile green wall, big planters with tall plants in them. This is privacy you can buy on Saturday, arrange by Saturday evening, and this is the part I underrated. Rearrange whenever life changes. The formula is simple. Large planters, and I mean genuinely large. Remember the front entry rule from my last video? Buy bigger than feels comfortable. Because small pots with tall plants fall over and look silly. Filled with tall, dense, fast growers. My lineup? Ornamental grasses, like miscanthus or feather reed grass, which shoot up 5, 6 feet in a single season and move beautifully in the wind. Clumping bamboo in big containers if you want that modern look. Or even tall annuals if you want cheap and fast for one summer. And I need to put a giant flashing warning light on one word back there. Clumping bamboo. Clumping. There are two families of bamboo. Clumping, which grows politely in a tidy circle, and running, which sends underground runners in every direction and will colonize your lawn, your beds, and your neighbor's yard, and is nearly impossible to fully remove. In containers, you've got a safety margin either way, but never, ever put running bamboo in the ground for privacy. I've seen a neighbor's mistake. Years later, they're still fighting it. When you're at the nursery, ask the word clumping. Here's why I love this idea beyond the speed. It's modular. 3 big planters in a row make a green wall beside the seating area. Party this weekend? Slide them wherever the privacy gap is. Renting? It all moves with you. It's the only idea on this list you can take to your next house. The honest downsides. Containers dry out much faster than ground soil, so summer means watering every day or two, or a cheap drip line on a timer, which is what I did after one crispy August. And in cold regions, grasses get cut down in late winter, so you'll have a shorter screen for the early spring months. Cost: a big planter plus plant runs $40 to $80 a unit, and 3 units screen most seating areas. Call it $150 to $250. Time: 1 Saturday, including the trip. Privacy: 1 season to full height with grasses. Near instant if you buy mature. Okay, so far we've been blocking sightlines with objects and plants. But idea 5 doesn't block the view at all. It redirects the eye, and it's sneaky how well that works. Idea 5, the trellis and climbing vines. Idea 5, the trellis with climbing vines. A simple vertical frame with a plant crawling up it. Of everything in my yard, this one gets the most compliments. And it's doing 2 jobs at once, one visible and one psychological. Job 1 is obvious. A trellis covered in vines is a green screen. It blocks the sightline like a panel, but softer and prettier. Job 2 is the sneaky one. A beautiful thing near your seating area captures attention. Guests look at a trellis instead of tribal. Through the gap it covers. Privacy isn't only about what people can't see. It's about what they don't bother looking past. Designers use this constantly, and once you know it, you'll spot it everywhere. Here's the build: a trellis panel, bought or built from cedar strips in a couple of hours, anchored next to the patio or against the pergola posts you may have just built in Idea 2. Look at us, stacking fixes again. Then the plant decision, and this is really a decision about patience, so let me lay out the honest tiers. Tier 1, this summer privacy, annual vines. Morning Glory, Black-Eyed Susan Vine, Scarlet Runner Beans. Seeds cost a few dollars, and they'll smother a trellis in 6 to 8 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. Morning Glories are basically a green explosion in slow motion. The catch: they die with frost, and you replant each spring. Tier 2, the long game. Perennial vines. Clematis for flowers. Climbing hydrangea for shade. Star jasmine in warmer regions. And if you want scent with your screen, jasmine near a seating area is genuinely one of life's upgrades. They take 2 or 3 seasons to fill in, then get better every year for decades. My honest recommendation: learn the slow way. Plant both in year 1. The annuals give you the screen this summer, while the perennial establishes underneath. Then the perennial takes over, and you stop replanting. Sprint and marathon again, on the same trellis. One mistake to dodge: match the vine to the trellis's strength. I put a wisteria, beautiful, and eventually as heavy as a fallen tree, on a light decorative trellis. The wisteria won. The trellis is in a landfill. Big woody vines need serious support. Light vines can climb anything. Cost: $30 to $100 for the trellis, $5 to $25 for plants. Time: 1 afternoon. Privacy: 6 weeks with annuals, 2 to 3 seasons for the permanent version. Now, let's talk about the front yard, because everything so far has been backyard thinking, and street-facing privacy plays by different rules. Idea 6, the layered front border. Idea 6, the layered planting border. And this is the front yard answer, because here's the thing about street privacy. A tall, solid fence along the front of a house almost always looks wrong, hostile even, like the house is bracing for something. There's a reason you rarely see it in neighborhoods you admire. What those neighborhoods use instead is layers. And layers work through a completely different mechanism than a fence. So let me explain it. Because once I understood this, it changed how I saw every nice yard on every street. A fence blocks vision with one opaque wall. A layered border blocks vision with depth. A taller layer at the back, small ornamental trees or upright shrubs. A middle layer of medium shrubs, and a low front layer of grasses or perennials. No single layer is opaque, but stacked, staggered, at different depths, the eye can't find a clean line through. From the sidewalk, a passing glance just reads garden, and crucially, glances is all street traffic ever gives you. Nobody's standing at the curb studying angles into your living room. You don't need a wall against the street, you need visual static. Layers are visual static that happens to be beautiful. There's a bonus mechanism too. A deep border pushes the viewer back. Every foot of planting between the sidewalk and your window is distance, and distance plus staggered greenery beats a fence panel for how a front yard feels. Soft and welcoming from the street, shielded from the house. Here's the build. One weekend. Mark a generous curve with a garden hose. Deeper than feels right. Shallow borders can't layer. Clear and mulch it, using the exact Friday night watering method from my weed video. Then plant back to front. Tall anchors first. Middles staggered in the gaps. Never lined up like soldiers. The staggering eye is the screen. Then the low front row. Odd numbers, 3s and 5s. Even numbered groups read as artificial, and I don't make the rules. My mistake here. Year 1, I spaced everything for how it looked that day. Tiny plants swimming in mulch, so I crammed them close. 2 years later, it was a shoving match, and I spent a weekend digging up and relocating shrubs. Space for the mature size on the tag. The gaps fill faster than you think. Cost. Honestly, the widest range on this list, 200 to 600 depending on plant sizes and border length. Still a fraction of fencing a frontage. Time, 1 full weekend. Privacy, partial immediately. Genuinely good by season 2. Alright, 2 ideas left, and idea 7 is for the awkward situations. The spots where nothing so far quite fits. Idea 7. The wall-mounted solutions. Living walls and faux ivy done right. Idea 7. The vertical solutions for tight and awkward spaces. The narrow side yard. The chain link fence you can see straight through but can't replace because it's the landlord's, or the neighbor's. The bare wall that faces the neighbor's window at point-blank range. Count yourself in if you've got one of these, because this section is specifically for the spots where you can't plant a hedge, can't fit a planter row, and can't build anything permanent. Option 1. The living wall panel. Vertical planters that mount on a wall or fence, pockets or modules you fill with plants. In a 3-foot wide side yard, this is privacy with 0 footprint. The wall itself becomes the garden. Herbs and trailing plants in the pockets if it gets sun, ferns and ivy if it's shaded. 2 honest warnings from experience. They dry out even faster than regular containers. A small drip line on a timer isn't a luxury. It's the difference between a living wall and a dying one. And confirm what you're mounting into can carry real weight. Because wet soil is heavy, and drywall screws into a fence rail is how living walls become falling walls. Option 2, and let's have the honest conversation nobody has on camera. Faux ivy panels. The artificial greenery rolls that zip tie onto chain link and lattice. The garden purist in me resisted for years. Then I actually used some on a rental property's chain link. And here's my grown-up verdict. Quality matters enormously, and placement matters more. The cheap rolls look plastic on day 1 and turn a sad gray-green after a year of sun. But a UV-rated panel, mounted as a backdrop rather than a centerpiece, behind real planters, under a real vine working its way across, reads as green rather than fake, gives you day 1 full coverage on a see-through fence, and needs 0 water and 0 patience. The trick is layering real in front of faux. The eye catches the real plants and grants the backdrop a pass. Faux alone, front and center, it always eventually reads fake. Faux as the understudy behind real greenery, genuinely effective. Cost living wall systems, 50 to 200 depending on size. Decent UV-rated faux panels, 30 to 60 each. Time, an afternoon either way. Privacy, instant with faux, 1 season for a living wall to lush up. And that brings us to the final idea. And it's the one that costs the least and gets skipped the most, because it doesn't involve buying anything at all. Idea 8. Reposition the room. Idea 8. Move the room. Before you screen the sightline, check whether you can just step out of it. I'm serious, and I saved this for last because it sounds too simple until you actually try it, and because it retroactively upgrades every other idea on this list. Here's the story. My original patio furniture sat dead center on the patio, because that's where the patio was, so that's where the furniture went. The default nobody ever questions. Dead center meant exposed to the neighbor's kitchen on the left, the two-story behind us, and a gap to the street on the right. I was gearing up to screen all three directions. Multiple screens, multiple purchases, the works. Then one afternoon, mostly by accident while cleaning, I dragged the seating set 8 feet into the corner, tucked against the house wall on one side and the garage wall on the other. And I sat down, and I actually laughed out loud. 2 of my 3 privacy problems were gone. The walls I already owned blocked them. The neighbor's kitchen, blocked by the house. The street gap, blocked by the garage. All that remained was the top-down problem. 1 pergola instead of 3 screens. 8 feet of dragging furniture replaced 2/3 of my shopping list. So here's the exercise. And do this before you spend $1 on anything from this video. Take a chair, 1 chair, and spend 10 minutes trying it in different spots. Corners first, because corners give you 2 walls of instant privacy for free. Against the house, behind the garage, under the mature tree. Sit in each spot for a full minute and notice what you can see. Because whatever you can see you. You're hunting for the spot where the yard already protects you. And almost every yard has one. We just never look for it, because the furniture goes where the furniture has always gone. Then, and here's the compounding part, whatever exposure remains in your best spot, that's what you fix with ideas 1 through 7. 1 screen instead of 3. 1 trellis instead of a hedgerow. Repositioning doesn't replace the other ideas. It shrinks your shopping list for all of them. Cost, $0. Time, 10 minutes of sitting in a chair like a strange person while your neighbors watch. For the last time, ironically. Privacy, potentially the biggest single gain on this entire list. And that's all 8. But don't go anywhere. Get your privacy type and your first pick idea ready for the comments. Because first, I owe you the finishing move. The one that isn't visual at all. Here it is. And it's the one nobody thinks of. Sound. After all my screens and plants went in, something still felt off on the patio, and it took me weeks to name it. I could hear the neighbors' conversations, which meant my brain never stopped insisting they could hear mine. And here's the thing I learned. Feeling private and being unseen are not the same thing. You can be completely hidden and still feel exposed if every clink of a fork carries across the fence line. Sound is half of privacy, and no fence fixes it. Sound curls right over an 8-foot panel like it isn't there. The fix is masking, and it's beautifully cheap. A small water feature near the seating area. A bubbling ceramic pot, a little tiered fountain, even a DIY bubbler. A pump, a basin, and stones. The gentle white noise of moving water sits exactly in the frequency range of distant conversation, and it works in both directions. Their sounds blur into the background for you, and yours blur for them. The first evening mine ran, the patio felt twice as private as any screen had made it. Same sightlines as the day before, completely different feeling. My wife's review. Why didn't we do this first? A fair question I chose not to answer. $30 to $100, 1 hour of setup, and it's the finishing layer on every other idea in this video. Site privacy plus sound privacy is the full experience. That's when your yard stops feeling screened and starts feeling like a sanctuary. Do it last. You'll wonder how the yard ever felt done without it. Now, before you head to the store this weekend, the honesty segment, 3 things I'd steer you away from, because each one looks like a shortcut and isn't. First, the cheap rolled bamboo and reed fencing. I know, it's $15 a roll. It covers a whole chain link run. It's so tempting. Here's the reality. 1 season, it dries, splits, sheds, and by next summer it looks like a beach shack after a storm, and you're paying and installing again. The math never works. Spend once on slat panels or plants instead. Second, and hear the distinction, because I recommended faux panels 10 minutes ago. Cheap, non-UV rated faux ivy. The bargain rolls fade to that dead gray green in 1 sunny season. And faded fake plants are the only thing that reads worse than no privacy at all. If you go faux, UV rated, used as a backdrop, the extra $20 is the whole difference. And third, one more time with feeling. Running bamboo in the ground. I don't care how fast the listing says it grows. That speed is the exact problem. It does not stop at your property line. Your neighbor inherits your decision, and removal is a multi-year war involving barriers and regret. Clumping varieties or containers, full stop. The pattern in all 3. Privacy shortcuts that cost you double later. Everything on today's list, even the slow ideas, especially the slow ideas, gets better with time. That's the direction you want your money pointed. So that's the honest story. 8 ideas, 1 finishing move, And the fence quote is still sitting unsigned in my email 3 years later. I keep it there out of spite at this point. Look, there are yards where a privacy fence is genuinely the right call. And if that's you after trying these, no judgment. At least you'll build it knowing exactly which sightlines matter. But most of us don't have a whole perimeter problem. We have a 2 or 3 spot problem wearing a whole perimeter price tag. Screen where you sit. Layer what the street sees. Put something overhead, move the chair first. That's the playbook, and every play in it fits in a weekend. And everything I showed you today is what I actually did, including the screen that cartwheeled into the vegetables, the 2 arborvitae I underwatered, the wisteria that ate a trellis, and the 3 years it took me to admit the faux ivy worked. Same ideas, everyone still standing. Well, except that first screen. And they've worked every time I've helped someone else's fishbowl yard since. Your turn. Comment your privacy type, side to side, top down, or street, plus the idea you're trying first. Format like type 2, starting with the shade sail. I read every single comment, and if you've got a genuinely weird privacy situation, odd lot shape, strange neighbor geometry, describe it, because I'm collecting the hard cases for a follow-up video where we solve them together. Take the before photo. When your screen goes up or your grasses come in, tag me or use the hashtag. Your transformations make better content than anything I film alone. If this saved you from a 5-figure fence quote, the thumbs up genuinely helps this reach the next person staring at one. And subscribe for a new weekend project every week. Next week, the backyard upgrades that actually lower your home's value. And I promise, number 1 will start arguments in the comments. You don't need a fence. You need one weekend and the right idea. And now you've got 8 of them. Pick your spot, drag the chair, take the photo. I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. The diagnosis layer this time is the 3 privacy types, side to side, top down, street, established up front so every idea can point back to it. And it sets up the video's biggest authority moment. A fence can't fix type 2, which is the kind of money-saving truth the sample channel built its reputation on. The core principle, privacy is about where you sit, not where your property ends, plays the role the renovate in place advice played in your sample. One memorable thesis the whole video hangs on. Ideas are sequenced fast to slow and cheap to invested, with the sprint marathon pairing, screens while hedges grow, annual vines while perennials establish, giving you honest answers to the "but plants take years" objection. Idea 8 costing $0 is deliberately saved for last, as the trust peak, the sound masking finisher, parallels the crisp edges move, cheap, overlooked, ties everything together, and the what not to buy segment protects viewers from the 3 most common wasted purchases in this exact niche.